A British commander has warned international forces against rushing for the exit in Afghanistan. Brigadier Patrick Sanders, commander of 20th Armoured Brigade, told a briefing in London that Afghan security forces are increasingly taking charge across the British area of operations in central Helmand. But he cautioned the gains that have been made are not yet irreversible. Charlotte Cross was listening to him.
The focus of the briefing was very much on the Afghan security forces and how they progressed during 20 Armoured Brigade's tour. They were described as capable and confident, with an accelerating appetite to be put in charge. And that bodes well for British troop withdrawal, a gradual process which starts this year.
I think the timeline that's been set out, the end of combat operations at the end of 2014, is about right. And certainly the speed that we've seen the Afghan security forces develop, particularly over the last 6 months, shows that we're on track to achieve that. We've got a timeline, let's stick to it.
Brigadier Sanders said the way Task Force Helmand operates has changed. The British are no longer in the lead, and he was working to Afghan priorities and to an Afghan plan. But the Afghans know the day will come when they won't be able to call on the British for help in things like surveillance or to evacuate their wounded.
They'll revert back to more traditional, more conventional means of CATEVAC, just as we do in conventional war. And when it comes to technical capabilities, and in particular intelligence, they rely very much on human intelligence, which is often more sophisticated and more reliable and effective than our own.
Increased boots on the ground led to more resources for the police mentoring teams, which increased from 5 to 14. Developing the police force is a priority, and corruption is being rooted out.
Well, we've now seen the 5,000th students pass through the National Training Centre, and it's certainly moved on an awful lot in the last couple of years. And in the last 6 months alone, $22 million of investments have been applied there, international funding. It's been approved as one of the enduring sites for training in Afghanistan, and we've seen a real change in the approach from the ISAF leading the training to now the Afghans leading the training.
20 Brigade's tour was also marred by tragedy in a so-called green on blue incident in Lashkar, when an Afghan army soldier turned his gun on the British, killing 2 soldiers at the gate.
You can't let these things get in the way. They're very tragic, but the first thing you've got to do is hold the ANA close and pull them closer. Their natural reaction is to distance themselves because they're hugely embarrassed and horrified, more horrified than we are, and getting right alongside them and not allowing it to get in the way. You just ride it through, and there was no effect on morale.
2 of the 3 districts in central Helmand are now under transition. Nadi Ali is the second to move under Afghan control after Lashkar, although that will happen gradually over 12 months, with the Afghans taking over the relatively safer south first. Although the violence in Helmand has halved over the last 12 months, Brigadier Sanders admits there's no room for complacency. He predicts a spike in violence there over the next few weeks once the poppy harvest is over. But his hope is the insurgency will struggle to resupply itself and maintain its momentum. Even so, he warns British forces should not rush for the exits too soon, because what's been achieved in Helmand so far is not yet irreversible. Charlotte Cross, Forces News at the Ministry of Defence.